Students, good morning. Let's start the discussion on today's newspaper, 4th March 2018. The first article, Staying Ahead of the Double Helix. This article is written in the context of recent Delhi High Court judgment. In this, it was clearly stated that if an individual has a genetic predisposition, that shall not be a ground for disqualifying him to claim his insurance benefits. It normally and health insurance when it is being signed, there are many clauses which excludes when a person cannot claim this insurance benefits. Most common among this is genetic predisposition. So let us understand how insurance company works. So there is a cohort. If the cohort consists of healthy people with less genetic predisposition, then obviously the insurance company will be having greater profits. The Supreme Court now what it stated is the right to life, Delhi High Court what it stated is right to life also means right to healthy life. So if right to healthy life has to exist, right to access to health also has to exist. Insurance is an instrument that provides right to access to health, and this cannot be denied on various grounds such as genetic predisposition. So what are the international practices which are there on genetic discrimination of individuals? The two places where they are discriminated are in the healthcare industry and also providing the jobs to the individuals. Now here the author wrote about different models which are there in UK which is a self-regulation. In USA the state has passed a law with regard to the regulation of genetic discrimination. But we don't need to get beyond that discussion. So USA, the model is mostly law passed by the Congress for making companies or hospitals not to discriminate individuals on the basis of their genetic characters. And UK, the insurance companies, they themselves have come together and they made a mechanism where they will not discriminate the individuals on their genetic predisposition. So these are the two models which are existing. More than that, what is Huntington's disease, what is autosomal recessive dominant, we don't need to get into that particular detail in this article. Now, what is eugenics? So, retaining good genes over the bad genes and making a genetically perfect individual, that is eugenics. Now, if you talk about Adolf Hitler, when he stated Aryan race is much superior to the other race, he started claiming legitimacy for his theory based on eugenics. So, eugenics normally happens or naturally happens through selection process. You know the Darwin's theory of natural selection. So, it means the genes which are not strong, they are going to be eliminated in the process of natural selection. But if we are artificially trying to eliminate them, and that is going to demean the human life. So the insurance mechanisms where the insurance is not available to the people with genetic predisposition, obviously we are artificially eliminating them. It means that person will have a greater risk of a disease and greater risk to die early. So that is not good for human society and human values. That is what this article's essence is. Next is the Adivasi in the mirror. This article is written in the context of killing of a tribal man in Kerala. So let's go. What are the problems the tribal people are facing in this country? I can put it as this way. The situation of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, there is not one and the same. We always draw SCs and STs a parallel. But in reality, the scheduled tribes, these have definitely a different orientation and life together. It means these are secluded, and second is these people do not have the unity as like the scheduled caste. They are too diverse to have a unity, and these people geographically located are geographically not connected from each other. So the scheduled tribe is not one single cohesive unit as like the scheduled caste. So there is something called a resource curse for the scheduled tribes. If you talk Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, etc., which are the mineral belt of India, that's where most of the tribes of India are located. The resource curse is these are the people who are being displaced and dispossessed of their wealth, of their environment, and everything. So it means that The modernity or the model of the development which we are talking is more turning out to be a resource curse for the scheduled tribe population. And these people, they do not get proper rehabilitative packages and they end up as the migrant workers and they will be exploited in the urban areas. And above all, I can put it as this way: certain protective legislations which have come up, that is PISA Act, etc., these are not being implemented in letter and spirit. Now, under PISA Act, let me give you this example. The Grama Sabha permission is necessary if any displacement has to happen or if any mineral has to be explored in that area. But however, this Grama Sabha meeting and approval is just a mockery rather than conducting it in its true spirit. So that's why these acts are becoming ineffective. And if you talk about Forest Rights Act, it also supposed to give the community rights to them. But community rights are never practiced in reality. So we have the laws on the paper, but at the implementation, these laws never take an effect. This is one of the reasons for the growth of Naxalism too. Now, if you take Haragopal, who has mediated when a district collector is taken in custody by Naxals, what he says is, if the PISA Act is effectively implemented, then that itself will address the problem of Naxalism to an extent in the country. And the second aspect, the culture, you know that the constitution protects every culture, every script, etc. So in this culture is getting lost among the tribal people. So and also this culture is being stated as inferior to the modern day or more to the existing modernity. So constitution as per the article 29, every culture, script and language has to be protected and everyone has a right to do that. Then how come one culture is stated to be inferior to the other culture, and why we are allowing that to across the media, across the movies? That is a question over here. So these are the points that are stressed in this article. The fear of forfeiture, what is this? Now, the government of India, it has passed, introduced a bill in the parliament, economic fugitives bill. So these economic fugitives, their property will be confiscated by the government. This is what we think. The government is saying that their properties in India will be attached, not confiscated. That's the difference we need to understand. And second, the properties that will be attached, it will consist of benami properties too. It means they will be in the third party name. And the third thing is, it is based on a premise that if an individual is made to lose the properties in India, he will be willing to come back to the country. These are the three premises. And government of India has made this possible on the basis of Convention on Prevention of Corruption Act. What the Convention on Prevention of Corruption Act states is, if an individual, either by death or by flight, if he is not available in the country for prosecution, his properties can be attached. So on that basis, this law is being made. But there are many legal loopholes in this law. The reason is how the third party is going to claim for his rights on the property, that is the issue. And second, if the fugitive is not willing to come to the country, what are the mechanisms? And the third thing is how the properties in the foreign countries will be attached. These are all the questions which are being still unanswered. But definitely it is an improvement over the existing laws. That's what we can state over here. Now, voting against alcohol. Now, remember few points which I talk over here. The poor and marginalized, they consider their vote as a powerful instrument. Few days back we saw that the right to vote is the radical change India has brought in after independence. So if I have to find one simple biggest change which made India better than the British India or colonial India, is right to vote, universal adult suffrage. So in this context, women in India, they never organized themselves as a group on an interest which are collective to them. And even though we have provided the reservations to them in panchayats, there is no organization of the women, sustained women movement across the country. But one factor which is moving women together, bringing women together, especially on rural front, that is what is anti-alcohol movement. So it has happened in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, now it is happening in Rajasthan. If you take, it also happened in Bihar and Tamil Nadu. So, anti-liquor movement, it is making women an organized group, mobilizing them to protect their interests. That is the point which we need to take home over here. And then, 10 Naxals killed on Telangana border. So here, whenever the Naxals are being killed, there is a question of encounter. Is this a real or a fake encounter? So if it is a fake encounter, obviously it is a human rights violation. So the state-sponsored violence is not an answer for violence from the Maoists. What does that mean? The state has to work within the framework of the constitution. Maoists do not. If the state itself is not working within the framework of the constitution, then how can we expect militants, terrorists to come and negotiate with the state? That's what is an argument which is put forward. And the second is rule of law, rule by law, these are different. So making the draconian laws which are violative of the human rights, it's a normal thing in India. Indian rulers wants to prove that they are tough and they are concerned about a particular situation by making the tough laws. The tough laws are not a solution. The legalistic way to solve the social problems is never going to be a permanent solution. So the knee-jerk reactions in making the laws is always a problem in this country. So rule by gun is much worse than this for rule of law. So rule of law, rule by law, rule by gun. So these have to be these rule by gun and rule by law, these will undermine rule of law in the long run. That is the point which I want to state to you. Amit Shah invites Naidu for talk on package. So Chandrababu Naidu, he is going to meet the BJP president. And see, we are not talking about anything over here regarding the politics. What I am going to say is, in the coalition era, the role of the Prime Minister has become more a negotiator than a leader. So in this context, we can see the federalism transforming as a bargaining federalism. That is what this meeting reflects. The word you want to remember here is the bargaining federalism. And the Prime Minister's role in the coalition era is more a negotiator rather than a leader. That's how you have to understand. And coming to this page, no change in stand on Dalai Lama. So it is stated that Government of India is cancelling the 60th anniversary of arrival of Dalai Lama in on Indian soil. But Government of India has clarified that they are not going to limit the freedoms of Dalai Lama in any way. Ministry denies vendetta against Prasar Bharati. Now you can quote this as an example. So Prasar Bharati is an autonomous corporation, and the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting it comes under this, but it has got a separate act, Prasara Bharati Act, under which it has to function. So in spite of this, the ministerial interference in autonomous bodies is expected to make their work non-professional, unprofessional. Why we made them as a separate corporation? To decrease the influence of the Ministry of Information Broadcasting. And still, the financial control, regulatory control, if it is in the hands of Information and Broadcasting, this independence appears to be just a mockery. That's how we can state it as. Now, trade wars are easy to win. Rather than going through the Trump opinion, what is happening in USA? The Trump has raised duties on steel and aluminium imports. So it is going to more hurt the European Union rather than China now, because the Chinese imports to US, especially with regard to steel and iron, out of its total imports is less than 1%. And in the US itself, there will be an opposition to Trump for the reason, as the import duties on steel and aluminium have increased, the car manufacturing cost is bound to increase. So it means various industries where steel and aluminium is an import, they are going to rescind the decision of President Trump. So this is the news for today. And I'm traveling today, so I haven't prepared the notes. Once I'm back to Hyderabad, I will prepare the notes and give it to you. Thank you very much and all the best.